I hope you've watched the 4 previous videos in this series, Why the United Methodist Church is Separating. There we've talked about the differences that divide us. Some of us in the present UMC believe that the Bible is God's Word, God-breathed and authoritative. Others of us don't. Some of us hold that Jesus is the only begotten Son of God, Lord of all, Savior of the world, the way, the truth, and the life. Others of us do not. Some of us believe that we should love gay persons in the same way we love everyone, but that we cannot deny what the Bible teaches about same-sex behavior. Others believe that the Bible doesn't mean what it clearly states, or that we simply know better today than those who wrote 2,000 years ago. So they feel comfortable, even compelled, to affirm gay and homosexual relations. In this video, I want to talk with you, those of you who are traditionalists. You believe in the Bible. You affirm the Nicene Creed and the Apostles' Creed. You believe Jesus is who he in the early church said he was. And you believe Wesleyan Methodism is a great gift to the world, that when we Methodists do it right, no one does it better. I want to talk with you traditionalists who've been able to accept what's in these videos, but you still wonder if this is the time to leave. You may think, we don't know what will happen at General Conference 2024, so do we know enough to take the drastic step of disaffiliating right now? Well, look, here's what you do know. You know the UMC is separating. Hundreds of churches throughout the denomination have already begun the process of disaffiliation. Thousands more have entered into the process of discernment and will end up disaffiliating. When it comes time to vote for delegates to General Conference 2024, many traditionalist churches will have already left. That means the next General Conference will be more liberal than ever. And you can be certain that a more progressive church will not give you a better deal than the one that is in the Book of Discipline right now. You also know that traditionalists will leave your annual conference. And my annual conference, for planning purposes, conference officials estimated that 40% of our churches will leave the UMC in the annual conference. Just recently, 70 churches disaffiliated from the North Georgia annual conference. In the conference right next to mine, the Central Texas Conference, 92 of the 261 churches have stated they are entering into a process of discernment about leaving. This is just the first wave of churches in these conferences. More will follow. And even if your bishop is making it difficult for churches in your conference to leave, some will. So you know that when some, maybe many traditional churches in your conference have left, you are not likely to receive terms for leaving from your conference that are better than the ones that you're being given right now. And you know that the denomination is going to be more progressive and your annual conference is going to be more liberal. Why would you think you will be in a better place if you wait until 2024 to leave? Here are 3 things you may not know. In early June, the centrist and progressive leaders who helped to negotiate the protocol for separation that was to be voted on at General Conference 2020 have all rescinded their support. They helped to create it. They put their names to it. They said they were committed to it. But now they're all walking away. Why? Because they believe they will be at a better place to negotiate a deal in 2024. They know that many traditionalists will have left and they will be in a stronger position to strike a bargain where they gain more and traditionalists receive less. This is not surprising. Centrist leaders on a national level have backed away from every deal they have ever made with us when they felt they had gained an advantage. They did it after General Conference 2016, they did it after General Conference 2019, and they have done it in recent negotiations, and now they have done it with the protocol. This means that for all intents and purposes, the protocol is dead. If you think after walking away from the protocol, they are 1, going to give you a better deal in 2024, or 2, that they will keep their word and do what they promise, you have more faith than I do. Maybe you have more experience with these centrist leaders than I do, but if you don't, please take to heart when I tell you that I have no faith that they will treat traditionalists fairly in 2024. Something else you may not know is that many bishops are being extremely punitive. In some conferences, churches are not being allowed to disaffiliate at all. In others, exorbitant exit fees are being added to what the Book of Discipline requires. In one conference, to leave, you would be required to pay an exit fee equal to 50% of the value of all your assets. That includes your property and your buildings. In another conference, it's 70% of the value of all your assets. If you have a bishop who's fair right now, do not count on having one like that in the future. Also, you may not know that the exit route being used by practically all the bishop goes away at the end of 2023. It's referred to as paragraph 2553 in the discipline. Wait until 2024 and that path will be gone. So, now is the time to leave. If you're getting anything like a fair deal and you can afford it, now is the time. It's very unlikely to get better. Maybe you're of the mind that you don't need to leave at all because the centrists and the bishops and even some of the progressives tell you that the post-separation UMC will be a big tent where traditionalists and their views will be respected. They're not telling you the truth. Some who tell you that may believe it. That's because they are naive. They have no idea where the post-separation UMC will go. That's not surprising because they haven't been able to see for the past 40 years where the UMC was headed. We told them we could not live together. Over and over again we told them, but they didn't believe us. And they couldn't see it because they didn't want to see it. They were naive. Please do not trust them to be your guides as to where the post-separation UMC will end up. Others know that it's not true when they tell you there is a big tent and you will always be accepted and respected. They tell you that because they want to keep your church around until they can take over. They want your buildings, they want your monies, and they want what will be left of your congregation. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh or judgmental, but progressive leaders and bishops have been disingenuous with us in the past, and sometimes past performance actually does indeed predict future results. Listen, the centrists will not be in charge of the post-separation UMC. They will be the new conservatives. They will be predominantly old white men, and they will not be able to withstand the radical liberal tidal wave that will fall upon them. The energy of the post-separation UMC is with the young progressives, and they are a take-no-prisoners kind of lot. I've dealt with them. They believe, and many older progressives do too, that marrying gay couples and ordaining practicing gay persons is a matter of justice. It is the way of love. It is the way of Jesus. The bishops they elect will be ever more progressive. And if you think they are going to let your church and their denomination long-term be a center of injustice and bigotry and hatred, then you don't know who you're dealing with. If you remain, there will come a day when a bishop will appoint a progressive pastor to your congregation to, quote, make a real Methodist church out of you. When I was young and bishops said that meant they were going to send a pastor to your church to make certain that you used Methodist literature and that you were paying all of your apportionments. But in the future, that will mean no longer holding to a traditional understanding of marriage and sexuality. How do progressives and so-called centrists think of us? I told you in the last video that centrist pastor and leader Tom Berlin thinks we carry a virus that makes the church ill. Trust me, as nice a guy as he may be, he will not allow you to become a super spreader in his church. I guess centrist Bishop Will Willimon wrote after General Conference 2019, quote, before the United Methodist Special General Conference opened on Saturday, we prayed. Perhaps God would miraculously grant a fruitful discussion among 800 disputants who have very little in common except our cross and flame name tags. We prayed for openness to differing points of view, unity, communion, gracious listening, holy conferencing, empathetic feelings, and generosity of spirit. It didn't work. At some point, I shifted my own prayers to, Lord, please melt the hardened hearts and smite everyone who intends to vote against the one church plan. The one church plan was the plan to let every pastor do what he or she wanted to do regarding whom to marry, and to let every annual conference decide whom to ordain. And if you disagreed with that policy, Bishop Willimon thinks you have a hardened heart. Not just that you hold to 2,000 years of Christian teaching and what the Bible very clearly seems to state. It's not just a difference among good people. He's told you what he thinks. It's your hardened heart, and you deserve to be smitten. In fact, he prayed for God to smite people like you. I didn't know about this article until one of my members showed it to me and asked how a bishop of his church could pray that God would strike him down. Another bishop Robert Hoshibata, a progressive, stated that not only is the church's position that the practice of homosexuality is incompatible with Christian teaching wrong, but Christians who think so are homophobic and demonstrate, quote, their inability to incorporate the value of reason in their thinking. Hold to a traditional view of sexual morality, and you're not just hard-hearted, you are incapable of using reason. How open do you think this bishop will be to traditionalists and their views in the future? One more bishop, Minerva Carcano, after what was for her a disappointing general conference, she wrote, quote, delegates from Africa once again proclaimed that their anti-homosexual stand was what U.S. missionaries taught them. She continued, I sat there wondering when our African delegates will grow up. It has been 200 years since U.S. Methodist missionaries began their work of evangelization on the continent of Africa, long enough for African Methodists to do their own thinking about this concern in others. I don't know what is worse, her disdain for the traditional position or her willingness to demean a continent of faithful Methodists of color, most of whom are poor and struggling. Listen, not all, but many progressives and centrist leaders, they do not respect you. They do not respect your views, your intellect, or your commitment to the Bible. They are smarter than you are. They know better than you do. They are more enlightened than you are. Where do you think the church they lead is going in the future? Once we traditionalists are gone, what was United Methodist Women and the Board of Church and Society will again become member partners with the RCRC. That's the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice, an organization that in the name of God promotes any abortion at any time for any reason. Only after years of hard work were traditionalists able to get organizations away from the RCRC. When we're gone, the post-separation UMC will be right back with the RCRC promoting abortion. When we are gone, never again will a traditional bishop be elected. It will not take long when traditional candidates will not be approved by their boards of ministry for ordination. That means even if you have a traditional pastor right now, there will not be any more entering the pipeline. I do believe it won't be long before the church is debating blessing the unions of people that involve more than two persons. Pastors will be praying in their churches to the great queer one, as students at Duke Divinity are already doing. Not all, maybe not yours, but some will be. And the church will decline. Where the church now is most progressive, it is most rapidly declining. The post-separation UMC will very quickly become the woke and broke United Methodist Church. It may be hard for you and your church to disaffiliate, but it will be much more costly to stay. You can wait and see how it will go, or you can get real with what's going to happen. The UMC will become more and more progressive. Your annual conference will become more liberal. The promise of a big tent Methodism will be exposed as a lie, and if you wait to act, you will be in trouble. Accepting reality when it is unpleasant is difficult. It can require courage. I'm praying that God will give you eyes to see and the heart to be bold and strong and to do difficult things. Trust Him and move forward. There's just one more video in this series. If it's time to go, where should you land? That's what we'll talk about next. God bless you.